Hey guys, Sam here. I'm joined by FBI, or we call him Vicky, and just here to talk about how recent matches have gone and how things are going into playoffs. So the first thing to talk about, Vic, is we're going to talk about the entire season,
Rightio, mate.
just starting from split one and how things started from the get go, going into first stand or last stand.
First stand.
First stand.
First strike. First
And
stand.
then obviously the struggle of split two, and then finally kind of where we're at now. So, Vicky, kind of
Yep.
talk me through how you felt joining the team from NRG. How you molded into like what we currently had at 100 Thieves.
Yeah, I mean, I think coming in initially, my expectations for the team were pretty high. I think just from the outside looking in, it was a really strong mechanical team with, just great mechanics. So I thought with my own PFPs coming in to join the party, I
was gonna say you didn't help much in that
okay,
department, mate.
what the fuck, mate?
Nah, you got good mechanics. You got good
All right,
mechanics.
yeah. So I thought, we're going to be just a really strong mechanical team. Just needed to, figure out the team stuff as you always have to when joining a team and see where I fit in. But, I had high expectations coming in, and I thought the team was pretty solid.
Yeah, we had a pretty good start. I think the thing I remember the most is the FlyQuest series where
In Brazil, yeah.
Yeah, in Brazil, where last year we didn't take a series of fly, and in scrims I think we dropped maybe 2 or 3 scrim wins max. So to win that series against them was really exciting for me. And I think especially Sniper had a really good series that series, but everyone played well. But then we kind of collapsed against TL.
Yeah,
So, and that was all the space of 2 days. So what happened there?
Yeah, well, Enemy ADC got finals MVP, so let's just say bot gap and move on from that one, I reckon.
Well, there was the Brazil conditions, remember?
Yeah. But you don't want to be a sore loser, mate. You don't want to be a sore loser.
Well, so just talking on that a bit, we had not to make excuses, but we did have some challenges with the conditions of Brazil. I think we had 3 players getting sick at the same time. It was you, Quid,
River, I think.
and maybe Riv.
I think Bill got a bit sick too. I remember I went to the Brazilian hospital and I was pretty scared, but when they gave me an IV, because their IV, the needle looked very, very sharp, I wasn't sure what was happening. I thought my organs might be hard. I don't know, mate, yeah. But,
Vic's a little bit of a hypochondriac. And I know he's a hypochondriac because I'm also a bit of a hypochondriac. So every time he gets a symptom, it's the worst possible thing. He'll get on the Google doctor, figure out that he has something that's going to end his life, and then he's
Is this relevant, Sam? Is this relevant to the podcast?
Well, I think it is important because I think it affected your performance.
Well,
Do you agree?
Potentially, but it could have just been the terrible conditions that we were in Brazil. The hotel, which the aircon barely worked. It was very, very hot, and if you turn the aircon on, it was very loud. So
now it sounds like you're
sleep.
making excuses.
I'm just trying to move on. Let's go to split 2, mate. Let's go to split 2.
Okay, split 2. Split 2 was a little rough. Okay, from memory, we had a really hard schedule at the start.
I don't even remember.
And I think we dropped series to C9, Fly, and TL.
No. Didn't we beat C9?
Oh, the Vi game. We did.
Was that split 1? That was split 2, right?
That was split 2.
Yeah,
we
beat
beat C9 and we started well. And then we lost to Fly TL, I think.
Is that true?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
so we lost to the other top teams. And then we kind of ran through the lower tier teams. But I guess talk to me a bit about, that split. I'm trying to remember what
I'm not gonna lie, I don't really remember that split. Actually, the split must have been pretty bad because there's a portion of my memory that seems to have blocked it out.
Yeah.
Was it that bad?
We had some drafting issues. I guess I could talk. I could talk about that. I could talk about that. Okay. There was a few major issues we had in that split. One of them was draft, and honestly, it was kind of coming off the back of the TL series in split 1, where we had a really bad game 1 draft, or not bad in the context of the meta. We gave APA Ziggs and we played a Z matchup. And then I think because of that, and like being so costly in that split, draft became like a big topic of conversation within the team. And so there was like a lot of arguments about the process of draft and like how we should go about it in scrims. And then when we got to stage, I think there was a lot of extra pressure on our drafting. But there was, I feel like we've only really just recently resolved it to a certain extent, even though we didn't have the best draft on the weekend in the third game. But we've kind of figured out the kinks of like, who should have control and like make the final decision. Before there was just way too much communication and like everyone was talking over each other. There was no trust in the process. Yeah. So I guess how do you feel about kind of that area? Because I know you were very passionate about it.
Yeah, I mean, our draft sucked. In Split 2, now that you bring it up, now I remember. Yeah, our drafts were just terrible. No one in particular was at fault, but I think we've gotten better at that.
Yeah, I specifically remember a Smolder Alistar game where we played into Varus Nico.
Yeah, we're not here to point fingers. We're here to just explain what's happened.
But I think the people would like to know.
I think the people know enough, mate.
No, basically we had some pretty bad drafts, I'll be honest.
Hey Sam, I reckon hurry up, eh? Like,
sorry.
Dragging on,
sorry.
Like, we got
I'm a natural podcaster, that's why.
No, but you're boring. That's the problem. It's not like no one's gonna fucking watch you talk.
Well, why don't you say something interesting?
Well, I don't know when you're gonna fucking stop talking.
Okay. And then we'll get into split 3 because that's the important part. I guess talk me through this split because we obviously had a pretty terrible start. How do you feel about what's kind of happened so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, we started off pretty terribly in terms of our stage performances. Week 1 versus TL, we had winning situation in game 1. Should have been a pretty easy win, in my opinion. Did a bit of trolling, did a bit of Lucian ulting backwards, a little bit of everything. And yeah, I think we were playing pretty shit. I don't know. I think after game 1, we also lost just unlosable fights in game 2. So, it was just pretty bad all around. But I think in our FlyQuest series week 2, we had good positions in the game. I think especially in game 2, 5 kill Kai'Sa. And I remember a specific instance where we killed Inspired on bottom and Atakan spawned, and we just really, really botched the 4v5 situation that I think 9 out of 10 times should result in a free Atakan and a winning team fight for us. But I mean, those things really matter, especially versus good teams. So it was pretty sad. And then in this most recent week, I feel like in this week we've really come along as a team. In last week's practice before the Shopify match, I felt like we were finally starting to play like a team, and it felt like there was always clear direction in the game. There was no stress, and I felt that if we just played how we did in scrims, we would have been able to beat Shopify pretty handedly. But obviously, stage and scrims can be two very different things, and we didn't really get to show all the stuff that we'd learned in practice. So with these extra 2 weeks before we play versus LYON, I'm feeling actually really confident that we're going to be able to finally win a series. We're going to be able to do it.
Hopefully. I mean, I guess the only thing I'll add is like, from a coach point of view, I feel like our scrim quality, especially at the start of the split, wasn't the best. Like, there was a lot of individual mistakes. But as Vic said, I feel like recently we're making much more stable games, and we're able to like work on our objective play, which is kind of what the whole game is about, especially right now. So I think we're definitely on the right track. So we just have to see if we can perform under pressure. That's the main thing. Okay, so talking about the draft issues we had, I think personally the biggest reason why we've been able to resolve it to a certain extent is just the process. I think we talked about it and talked about like who should have control and who should be communicating at certain points of the draft, and we gave a lot of power to Grayson to just make a final decision, especially when stuff gets convoluted. And the main point of that is that someone has responsibility and accountability, whereas like before it kind of felt like everyone was just like waiting for someone else to make a decision, and then it got crazy and convoluted. So that's kind of my point of view on it. What about you, mate?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think from my point of view, because Grayson had kind of messed up the draft in the split 1 finals. I mean, sorry to throw you under the bus, mate. Anyway, I felt like we had lost a bit of trust in Grayson in terms of draft, and because of that, players kind of took on, a more direct approach in what champions they wanted to play. But that's not necessarily a good thing, I think. And I mean, everyone can make mistakes in draft, and especially if a player, because you're playing the series too, so you have a lot of other thoughts in your head more so than draft as well, and you might not make the right decision at times. So I think overall it's just a better process to have obviously the coach decide the ultimate pick.
Agreed. All right. I mean, this next question I think is a good one for you to answer, Vic, because you've been in the league scene for such a long time. From your point of view, what are the key indicators for a successful team in just pro play?
I think there's a bunch of different factors, and they change all the time depending on the personalities that you have on a team. But I think one of the most important things is just having trust in each other. I think what I've noticed is when trust starts to be lost within teammates, it's really hard to regain that trust. And when that trust is not there and you're doubting every one of your teammates' plays or doubting every one of your teammates' calls, the team can't really function as like a top tier team. And I think that's probably the number one thing. And secondly, I think individual skill is obviously very important. I also think that a team can only be as strong as its weakest member, if that makes sense. Obviously, you can still be a good team, but individual skill matters a lot, I would say, in League of Legends. Those two things are things that I notice in good teams. And then, obviously there's all the other stuff, being friends with each other, wanting to play for each other, wanting to win for each other, being willing to sacrifice.
So you guys had
an
NRG, team spirit.
Somewhat, yeah. I would say so. I would say that we were good friends. We talked about the game outside of, just scrim hours and stuff like that. And just having those kind of interactions and with your teammate and being open, pretty important too.
Yeah, I mean, I think what a lot of what you said kind of helps with getting everyone on the same page, which is like the ultimate goal. I think we've had a lot of points throughout this year where it's like everyone just has a different idea of what we should do at each stage of the game. And I feel like only recently we've kind of figured out like how we want to play. Especially because I think with the personalities on our team, for example, it's like our players, other than I think Vic talks a lot, but outside of the game, no one's talking that much to each other. I think recently the energy's been a lot better, but if you can't talk to each other and like, get on the same page about like how you want to do things, you don't actually improve. I think that was a big challenge that we face in particular that we've kind of gotten a bit better at recently. So yeah.
Agreed.
That's my take on that. All right. So coming into the LYON match, we obviously had a bigger break than normally. So we have a 2-week break. How are you feeling about going into the LYON match? Obviously they've looked pretty good. Like what's your perspective on kind of their strengths and weaknesses?
It's pretty funny because I think LYON is a team that's pretty similar to us. They're bloodthirsty. They like to push the pace of the game. They like to, dominate their lanes. And I think it's funny because we're on like a similar trajectory as them. I think they're on an upward trend. They've shown promise against FlyQuest. They've taken down TL. They've had a really tough schedule, and you could easily say that they're the third place team right now, even though the standings don't reflect it. But like I said before, I think as a team, we're also really starting to be on the up and up. Although we're 1-6, we haven't gone into show it on stage. I know I keep saying this, but I really do truly believe that we can contest the top teams in our current form. And as long as we keep working hard in these 2 weeks, I'm not saying it's going to be an easy match by any means because they're also looking better and playing better. But I mean, I'm pretty confident we can beat them. And I think if we do manage to beat them, the road ahead, they're a tough task, like I said, but I'm feeling confident, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's been we've both talked a lot of, I guess, about there is a general feeling right now that we're making a lot of improvements, but at the end of the day, if we can't show it on stage, it doesn't actually matter.
You're always the Debbie Downer, aren't you, mate? Like,
I'm just trying to keep you grounded, mate.
There's nothing not grounded about what I said.
Well, I guess what I was gonna say off the back of that, mate.
Go ahead, mate.
Is in terms of you mentioned a little bit about preparation, but from your point of view, what is the most important thing? We have like a bit over a week left of scrims to focus on in the next week.
I
I
think
would say draft prep's gonna be
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
important.
I was gonna say I think our draft against Shopify game 3, just specifically game 3 could have been a lot better, and that's something that we still struggle with. I think sometimes on stage when the pressure's on and the enemy team didn't pick the champs that we expected them to pick, that sometimes we struggle a bit in improvising fast and constructing a coherent team comp where the lanes aren't astronomically bad and stuff like that. So I think that'll be a pretty important thing to focus on as players. Obviously, we just need to focus on our individual play and our team play, and I think we've been doing a really good job on that. Although there are still some areas where we could definitely improve. I've been feeling really happy, and I've been feeling like our scrims have been going very well. So
Yeah, I think something personally for me. I mean, this is kind of related to the draft stuff, but also our play. I think as a team, we generally don't face adversity that well. Like
Mhm.
a lot of the time, after the first game goes really badly, we don't react how we should. And I think in the series against Shopify, we had like this knee jerk reaction where we played pretty badly with like a front to back comp, and we kind of came out of the game. And we're like, we have to play a dive comp. Like, we're not going to execute this well. So I think for me, it's making sure that like we're in a good headspace so that even if a game goes wrong in a best of 5, it doesn't really matter. It's like we just need to be objective and make the right decisions because I think we're the better team. So
Yeah.
At the end
I
of the
mean-
day, if we just play normally, I think we're gonna win. So
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think that even extends to our gameplay. I think in the past, when early games would go badly or something, we could have the tendency to just collapse as a team. But I think as of late, even in early deficits, I don't really feel like the game's ever really slipping out of our control. We could be down 2-3K in the early game, but it doesn't feel like everything's falling apart in our team. And I think we've actually become a lot more resilient, at least in game, in terms of those kind of stuff. So I'm hoping that we're going to be able to have a good showing on stage.
I think a lot of that is to do with you, Vic. I think your leadership, especially recently, has been good. I think
Thank
Vic,
you, mate. Thank you.
yeah, without glazing too hard, I'm glazing a bit, but
Carry on.
Vic is definitely the one where stuff is hitting the fan in the game. I think a lot of the other guys have a tendency to go super quiet, but Vic makes sure that we're like focusing on what's next. Because like the way League is right now, it's so easy to throw the game or like enemy's going to make a mistake and you're just immediately back because of the bounty systems.
Yep.
So I think Vic's done a good job with kind of keeping us level headed. So proud of you for that, mate.
Thank you, mate.
So obviously it's not a huge patch, but like a relatively decent sized patch for the middle of the split. Without kind of giving away too much information, like how do you feel this patch will affect us? Do you think it's positive or negative for our team?
Positive.
Do you want to elaborate?
Without giving too much away, I think it's going to be very positive.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think I think for us it gives us a little more flexibility. I think there's definitely some champions that have been buffed which we can kind of, implement in our fearless drafts, which I think we kind of needed. I did feel like we were having, it wasn't really bad, but we were having some champion pool issues, especially going into like game 3, 4, 5. So adding a few more champions definitely helps our cause. So I think this patch is definitely good for us.
Agree.
Very, very, yeah. So talk to me about kind of reflecting on the LTA. Originally the LCS. Obviously, it has not been doing too well. Obviously, we both come from OS. Do you feel like there's any kind of parallels between the feeling of the regions where OS, obviously suffered to a point where it just died? Hopefully, fingers crossed it doesn't for LTA, but yeah, your thoughts?
Well, I left OC, I think, when it was at like still a pretty decent point. So I wasn't around for the.
So that's why it fell, mate.
Oh.
You were gone, and
I
we
wasn't-
we couldn't hold it up, mate.
I wasn't around for the downfall, but yeah, like you said, it's obviously really sad to see how far the LCS has fallen. I think, obviously, as a player, maybe I should have streamed more and tweeted a bit more. And all the players, like, it's hard for me to talk about because obviously, as players, I think, we kind of let the space down because originally the reason that people tuned in for the LCS was because there were so many personalities and people interacting with fans and stuff like that. So, it's I'm sorry for not doing that, but I think that the times from back then to now, at least a couple years ago, it was really all about winning. And that's all we were really focused on as pros. And ultimately, that along with a landslide of other factors has caused the LTA to now be at its lowest point. And obviously, it's very sad to see. So
Yeah, I mean, to me, there's kind of like two big factors. Number one is kind of what you mentioned. It felt like right at the start of North American League of Legends, you had kind of like the CLG TSM where they all just streamed their individual point of views and people loved the drama. It was more so, it was almost more content creation than it was competitive esports. And then it got really commercialized and people thought that winning was the key to success for keeping popularity in the region, and that wasn't necessarily the case as we've seen. But I do think.
Well, caveat that's also because we didn't really perform internationally.
Yeah, I was about to touch on that. Yeah, the other big thing is obviously North America, especially in its like highest point, was not performing internationally. I think actually, if you look at the last couple of years, NA's actually done a lot better than EU, to be honest. But that actually hasn't really helped. Where you can see someone like Kdrawl who just co-streams EU. To be fair, I do think EU has quite a big advantage in the sense that their region is divided, where fans can support like their home country. I think that helps a lot. I think in America, you can't really do that. I mean, you could try to divide it into states or something like that, but I don't think it's gonna have the same effect. I think just having like the cultural difference and the language difference definitely helps people get drawn to their team. But yeah, in terms of bringing it back to OCE, I guess OCE was a bit different in the sense that like we had a super small community of players from the get-go, where even I think the player base was like in the thousands or maybe tens of thousands compared to like the millions in other regions.
Not that low.
Was it?
No.
What was it? Genius. You give me the numbers, mate.
The editor will put up the numbers, but it definitely wasn't.
The editor.
What do you say? Thousands of people?
No, okay. I said tens of thousands.
No, you said thousands.
Well, then I know I said thousands, and I thought about it again, and then I went tens of thousands.
Yes,
you think it gets to hundreds of thousands?
Probably, yeah. Not like probably, yeah.
Hundreds of thousands in OC?
100,000 maybe, yeah. Like 80,000, 90,000.
All right, well, let's get the analysts on that. But yeah, I mean, the point being that we have a low player base. We had a low, which first of all makes it hard to grow in terms of like competitiveness because you just have a lower volume of good players. Like we have definitely had some good players. Like we're obviously FBI, Fudge, Spooks. That was pretty good, right?
Never heard of him.
Spooks?
Who's that?
You're on a team with him.
Really?
Yeah, you guys lost. Nah, I mean, he was pretty mid. But yeah, low volume of good players, and I think if you can't have like a huge performance internationally, especially as an English team, people are not going to be drawn to OC like they're drawn to EU or NA. It's like, why would I watch this region when I can watch Europe, LEC? Whereas, some wildcard regions like Brazil, it's completely different because as I mentioned before, you have the culture and the language barrier. So it kind of gives them a more focused audience. So I think it is a bit different, but in terms of like the symptoms of the kind of like the falling apart of the league, I've definitely felt that. Like for example, OC at its like peak, we used to go to the Riot studio and there was just like so many rioters and everything was like very well prepared. You felt like you're kind of being pampered to a certain extent. And then towards the end, there was like 3 rioters, like 1 ref, 1 player handler, and you were just being shuffled around. You could kind of feel like the resources were just being slowly taken away.
You're talking about OC?
OC, yeah. And I was kind of relate that to NA, where it's like when I first came to North America, you had the big stage every week. There was definitely a lot more people focused on North America. There was definitely a lot more hype. And now it kind of feels like the same, where it's like there's a lot less people working for you and like and helping you around. You're getting on the second stage of Valorant a lot of the time. So you're feeling the symptoms the same as you did in OCE.
But that doesn't always mean the result is the same, guys. Okay, you know,
Yeah, so I'm a very negative guy.
Yeah, you could have the same symptoms as the other guy, but you know, you have a good doctor and everything's gonna be a-okay. And I think that's exactly where the LTA North is headed. Hopefully.
So who's the doctor? You?
No.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was hoping you'd give us the solution. I mean, at this point, I think the solution is actually like a big international performance. No?
I agree.
I feel like
I agree. I think we need to make a world final.
Yeah, I think FlyQuest, like, I mean, even if you just look at recently, NA still has some hope. Like, FlyQuest has been doing a pretty good job, I would say, where, you know, they're competing with the best teams in the world. And, like, people are, like, shifting the narrative to, like, NA is probably better than EU, even though FlyQuest is kind of EU. But it definitely feels like we're maybe shifting somewhere more positive. So, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that the decision to rebrand to the LTA North really did us any favors, if I'm being completely honest. I think the LCS was perfect as it is, and they could have just done something like LCS versus CB LOL Showdown. You know,
that's a great suggestion.
Yeah, I could be the doctor. I could be I could just be what we need. I could be the doctor, mate.
Were you at the did you go to the finals, the LCS finals last year?
Last year?
Yeah, with the
Minions one?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was really tired, so I went home.
Dude, like, did you see the pregame?
No.
It felt okay. The way they did it, and I don't know if they intended to do it, but it felt like an LCS funeral.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like so they're obviously taking away the branding, which was bad, but the way they did it, they brought like all the old school players together, and it felt like they were celebrating the end of the LCS. I was sitting there with my missus, and I was like, why does this feel like the end of everything? Like, why does this feel like the closing statement?
That could just be your interpretation, because there was also another final that I went to in 2022, 03. That had the same thing. They brought out all the old pros and stuff. So it could just be your interpretation of, you know, you're a very negative guy, it seems.
How do you feel shutting me and my points down? Does it make you feel does it make you feel good?
Like I said before, Sam, I'm the doctor. I could be helping you here.
I think we would both feel better if you could acknowledge my point of view first, and then go and relate and kind of give your perspective.
Damn, we're not,
because it's very polarizing when you do that.
Carry on, mate.
Okay, so kind of going back to what you were talking about before, in terms of like the potential of, you know, a positive path forward for the LTA, you mentioned the you know, kind of more content creation side of it. Can you elaborate a bit more on like what do you think that?
Well, like I said before, I think that it is pretty hard to focus on those kind of things, and although it helps obviously the LCS and the general ecosystem of the league to have the fans more engaged and to just, you know, yeah, like you said, make more content, at the end of the day, our job, it is pretty tiring, even though, you know, we're just playing games for 12 hours a day, and sometimes it's hard to have the energy, you know.
Well, I think a good thing to talk about here would be the stream scrims thing, because that, I guess, in a sense, could include both. Like, you're focusing on your performance whilst also creating content. Like, what's your take on that?
I mean, I agree to an extent, but I don't think it's helpful for teams to be streaming their scrims every time or every day. I think depending on the personalities on your team, it could really affect the way that you guys are playing and communicating. And like I said before, my ultimate goal is always to be able to win the championship. Just put it bluntly, I'm not really thinking about too much else other than that. And I think a lot of players probably feel the same way, especially because let's face it, we have a lot of imports in the league now, and it's not fair to them. Well, let's not phrase it that way. Let's just go back. There's a lot of imports in the league, and I think their goal is also to win. They don't really care too much, I think, about the longevity of the league and stuff like that. So yeah,
I think
tough nut to crack.
I think the problem that you're presenting here is that the league needs to grow to be sustainable, but a pro player is not always, but in most cases, only going to be focused on winning, and that generally doesn't include content creation. I'm not like an expert. I don't know how to solve that problem, But that's kind of like the twist in the road that no one can figure out, I suppose. There has been like the stream scrims being thrown in, but I think as Vic mentioned before, it's like I can promise you for our team, if we were streaming scrims and reviews, people would not act like themselves and they wouldn't give honest feedback in the review, and that would affect our performance because we're not giving the right feedback to each other. I don't know how to solve that, but it's just like it's natural. Like if you put a camera in front of someone's face, they're not going to act how they normally would act, right? Like me right now. Yeah. That
Yeah,
is
actually that could work.
That is
That could work.
as our Maddie at the producer. Yeah, I didn't want to give you the wrong title. At the lens has let us know. We wouldn't have to.
We wouldn't have to add the comms and
Yeah,
stuff.
and
But would that really be that fun to watch though?
Yeah,
You
so
know what I
so
mean?
that's
Like,
kind of what I was going to mention. I think no, I kind of agree. Like I think streaming scrims with communication, as long as it's not related to like the feedback process, is probably the best middle ground. There is a slight competitive disadvantage in the sense that, well, it's not slight. It's not slight. It's pretty. It is pretty big. But I guess like then you would be like, okay, what about doing it more in like the off season, for example? Like
I mean,
there is
I'd be
like
down,
like
but-
a 3 to 4 week period before the actual season starts where you're scrimming. That would probably be a good time to do it. But week to week, it's pretty bad because you only get 5 days where you're kind of practicing your stage champions, and everyone's just going to see what you're prioritizing, which is very important.
Yeah,
Thoughts?
I don't think streaming scrims is the answer, mate.
Well, what's the answer? You're just full of problems, but you don't have any solutions.
Well, like I said, I'm a player, mate. Why don't we bring
Well,
fucking Mark Diaz again and ask him these questions?
You better stick to that, mate, because that's the one thing you are good at, mate. So, so we've covered obviously a lot of things today.
Been all around. We've been all around.
We've been all around the world.
Yeah.
Hope you guys enjoyed some of what we covered. If you didn't, let us know in the comments. Subscribe. But you know, obviously we have LYON coming up soon. We're super excited. I think you guys are going to be surprised at how far we've come. Well, hopefully. Hopefully.
Well, we've been saying this every week, mate.
Hopefully.
Nothing changed yet.
Hopefully you guys are surprised at how far we've come. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. We appreciate it. We appreciate any support. You know, it hasn't been the easiest time for us lately, but I promise you everyone's putting 100% going forward into the playoffs. So thanks for watching. Vic, you got anything, mate?
Yeah, thank you to all the fans out there. If you're still supporting us and the 100 Thieves, like Sam said, it's been a very tough road so far, but really hoping to end things off with a bang. You know, the last dance, as they say, and it would be a real shame to whimper out of the league without a single series win. So we're going to do our best to make sure that doesn't happen. So tune in for our match versus LYON. I'm personally predicting a 3-0 scoreline.
Do you think anyone cares about your prediction? We've got special guests who would like to say a couple of things before we tune out. So Quid, would you like to say anything to the fans?
Oh, thank you for watching.
Thanks, Quid.